Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another Marvel Rivals video. Today we're going to be actually doing our Season 1.5 tier list. I think enough time has been out at this point. I'm always a little bit later on these types of things than the other creators, just because I like to get a bit of a sound demographic for where a lot of these characters are going to be going for me. I don't like to do it too soon. I like to test the waters as much as I possibly can. Um, I am doing this rather than like a gameplay video because I actually do have a stream going live like very shortly after this video gets posted, so it'll be a big way. I've been running out of time rampantly, but anyway, without rambling too much, if you want to go and watch me on Twitch, watch me lose, watch me win, whatever happens, it'll be linked down below. I appreciate it. So for today, the first pick that we have on the roster is going to be Adam Warlock. After the buffs, this character actually feels pretty good into dive. I actually think that Adam Warlock feels a lot better, and I feel like now that the game is becoming a little bit more solved, a lot more people are kind of figuring out what they need to be doing, and kind of how they want to be playing the character a lot more. As I have been playing on both my accounts, in Celestial 1 and 2, the game has felt as though, like, whenever dive characters are picked and Adam is available, if you pick Adam, then it's not always necessarily an insta-win, but it definitely is a very helpful tool. His healing is like one of his larger issues, where it's not that much because he's only got 2 charges of it and it spreads across the team. The character has really good damage compared to the other supports. He's very good at that. The res can be very good. The largest issue, in my opinion, with Adam Warlock currently is that he is a character that does not benefit as much from the res as some other character that has different healing maybe would. I think he does perfectly fine. I don't think he's a troll pick by any means. I just think that he's more of a specialty pick, and the people that one-trick him make him look a lot better than somebody like me who would just like pick him up. I do as a very decent Adam Warlock player. He had Eternity playing him. So I would say that he's definitely good enough to climb, and I think every character on this list is good enough to climb. So for that, I'm going to actually put Adam in B. I think he's a very good pick. I think he's a very niche, specialized pick, but I think he's definitely good. Black Panther. This character, now that support's got a little bit of a nerf, you see triple support way less nowadays, just because the resource skew is much harsher. And I think dive got a bit better, and I've been seeing a lot more dive this season than I did last season, and even the season during season 1 and season 0. So I definitely think that he is in a much better spot. Before I probably would have put him in high C. Looking back at the way that the meta was kind of molding, I actually think that he's a pretty decent B tier character. I don't think that he's like too insane, but I think that he's definitely fairly good. I think he's fairly solid, especially on players that put a lot of time into him. The biggest issue is that this character gets shut down by Loki pretty hard because of the lamp. Adam Warlock again can ruffle his feathers a little bit. Bucky Barnes can, really put in some work on him. Namor obviously is disgusting. There are just some ways that you can kind of shut him down and make the character swap. But if they're not available, then Black Panther is like a menace if you're really good with him. Next character on the list, we have Black Widow. This is kind of a controversial pick. A lot of people either think love her or hate her. I think that with a Mantis, like the Mantis damage buff, if you were running with a Black Widow and a Mantis that are both really good at the game, and both of them play really well off each other, this character can look really good. The issue with Black Widow is more so the fact that you have to dump a lot of resources in a character that essentially gets what she gets for way more than other characters need. Characters like Hawkeye, albeit their range is a little lower, but he's faster at getting his time to kills. His ultimate is way better, and you don't need to pocket him with a Mantis pick, right, to make him like really shine. Because Black Widow with Mantis, if she always had the buff and she could always one shot, would probably be up here on A tier. Without it, because it's quite hard to dive her if they're fairly good at the game. It can be very difficult, but I do think that she is. For now, I'm going to put her on the lowest stretch of B, probably, but we might change this to C later at the very end. Captain America. This is a sleeper character. I think Captain America right now is a fairly good character. I think that he does quite well on characters that are good with him. Right now, the people that are one-tricking him have quite a decent win rate with him, especially in high elo. This character is quite annoying. He can really disrupt backline. He can never die if he's playing well. This is just one of those picks that's like, if you're good at him, you'll run a train on the enemy backline. They will never kill you. But if you're bad at him, he will look like the most buns dog trash character in the game. But I actually do think Captain America is quite good. I think that this season, especially, now that people are actually learning the character, I think that he has really come into his own. A lot of people 2 patches ago, or in like even last season, were putting him like low C, D tier. And I actually think that he is quite good. I think that he is doing much better. I think that if you play Captain America, you understand how much value this character gives. But I feel like he's one of those characters outside looking in, you really don't understand like where his value can come from, right? And which is kind of unfortunate for him, because he, whenever he is doing work, he's doing a lot more than you actually think he is, and especially with his team ups right now. The team up that he gets from Thor is absolutely insane. He actually jumps up quite a bit on like the B tier spot if he does have the Thor pick, and I think that he's very comfortably very solid. He's a very well-rounded character. You can carry games on him, but there are some tanks that just do it better, right? Cloak and Dagger. This character is quite good. Still, even after the nerfs, this character is insanely good. The path nerf that she got, as well as the little bit of nerf that she has on the time of her path, since now they fade in relation to like when they were placed rather than all at once, definitely hurt her a bit. I don't think it's a gut by any chance, like by any stretch. I think this character is still fine. She's still brain dead easy. You can still do quite a bit. The fade is still ridiculously strong. The debuff from Cloak's ability is still ridiculously strong. This character will 0 to 100 people with healing will still just dump out 60,000 healing if you're decent. Just a really, really great pick. Definitely a lot of fall off, because I think a lot of people would have put her way higher, and she does actually have counterplay with the way that shit works now with the paths not stacking. You can actually focus her as a team. Magneto can still kill her. Characters like Iron Man got a little bit stronger solo. They can still kill her. You can still kill her as magic. There's just a lot of things that can still really mess her up if people are good enough to do so. Especially in Halo, you see this character die in her ultimate all the time if you're not coordinating well, or if you're just picking her for the sake of picking her. So for that, I do think that she falls off quite a bit. I do think she's obviously still better than Adam. For right now, I'm going to put her at the lower part of A tier before I would probably have her at S. Doctor Strange, he got 25 HP nerf. Who cares? This character is disgusting. This character is insane. His value with the portal, his value with the shield, his value with his damage, the value with his ult. This character just does everything. He's the jack of all trades, master of all. I think that Doctor Strange is one of the lesser obnoxious high tier must pick or ban characters in the game. But like with all that being said, this character is still ridiculously gross. He still does work. He still puts in work. He's great. Groot. This character, in my opinion, is still really solid. I feel like he is an A tier pick. I think that he is still really good with his combos. I can't put him in S tier. After the Moon Knight nerf, he definitely has lost some value. He still gets demolished by certain things, like Wolverine can still really catch him out. Bucky does a pretty good job at him if he gets a pull. There are a lot of characters in the game that just straight up do a lot of damage. They really, really break him up. Squirrel Girl, is being picked a little bit more. She's able to dump a lot of damage on him. Punisher Rocket is still really disgusting. So he's still a fairly good pick, and he has really good combos with like Namor. He's got really good combos with characters like Iron Man, Hela, obviously, and Magneto, and the big one, of course, Moon Knight. But the Moon Knight ult getting nerfed does actually lower his value a little bit for me, because you don't see Moon Knight in literally every game, but he's still a fairly good pick that has a lot of potential, and if you get really good at him, he is a very big carry viable pick. Hawkeye. Nobody plays this character, and I don't know why. I've actually been playing a bit of Hawkeye lately whenever I need something to like counteract like really heavy poke. And I think he's great. I think that he's a phenomenal character right now. I think that he, after the buffs, feels really, really hard to dive compared to, like, that 25 HP buff is a huge thing. But although that be the case, him one-shotting is still really insane. I do think that he suffers a little bit from the issue of just straight up not having anything to deal with getting dove consistently. If people are running a 2-dive comp and then it's just boom shotgun one after the other, somebody's on Hawkeye, they leave, another person jumps Hawkeye right after that, Hawkeye will get crushed, he'll get slammed. But really good Hawkeye players make this character look like he's phenomenally, like, stupid, right? This character is a really good option for shutting down characters like Bucky. Him and Hela can really just roll it out. He's super good in the melee picks that are needing to walk up. He's a very... if you have decent aim, low effort, high value. Very, very good character. The ult's still disgusting as well. Definitely an A tier pick for me. Hela's S tier. This character is really strong. The fact that she has literally almost no damage fall off anymore is wild. She does so much damage. She dumps damage. The ultimate is still really, really decent if you're using it correctly. Her movement around the map is still good with the bird. Her stun is still disgusting. This character is just stupid. This character is insane. If you are, you know, like a shroud of the game, this character will look gross, and you know, she feels just as potent as she did in season 1, in my opinion. The only difference between her then and her now is that there are other characters that are also just insanely good, that have been figured out a little bit more. Oh, the Hulk. Okay. Before I actually had this character in low A, but I actually think this character is like insanely good now. Now that people are not banning him every game, I do think that he's a bit worse than he was last patch, because I think that the Gamma nerf to Iron Man definitely makes his value, you know, being on the team a little bit less. But this character on his own is still really good if you have a main tank that is willing to like play a little bit further back. Good Hulk players will actually run a server. They will server admin the hell out of a game. This character is disgusting. The only reason I don't have him in an S is because I would like to limit that a little bit more to the pick ban characters. And I think that he is phenomenal. I think he's really, really, really good. And I think that he's a super duper good pick for anybody that is wanting to play him right now, especially with how little he's being banned compared to last season. I think I've seen, you know, even now whenever he's not banned, I hardly ever see the character just because people haven't really spent time to pick him up because, well, he's never banned anymore. And people were banning him all last season, so nobody ever had a chance to play him. I think Hulk is going to be one of those characters that's going to come back into the meta slowly, and as people get really good at him, you'll probably start to see him quite a bit more in the coming seasons. Mr. Iron Fist. Okay, so before the season started, when I saw the patch notes, I was like, oh my god, this character is going to be disgusting. In all actuality, though, he's a very specific character. He's very... it feels like they wanted to make Iron Fist a character that is an alternative to Wolverine, so that way it's a way of not nerfing Wolverine but also giving an option to do something different, to get rid of tanks. I feel like they tried to kind of, in a way, not make Wolverine unplayable because of the way his kit is designed, and make Iron Fist decent, you know, in certain situations. Last season, he was an okay dive that struggled really, really hard into poke comps. This season, he has a lot more survivability, which is great. And it feels like he, you know, can do a lot better consistently. You can play a lot safer. But with the nerf to his movement, as well as the fact that he does, like, it feels like 0 damage to squishies now, I actually don't know. Iron Fist feels worse to play this patch than he did last patch. The damage to tanks is nice, but I don't know. He just doesn't feel like he does that much. Good Iron Fist players will make him work, but you know, compared to some of the other dives that we have right now, he just doesn't feel... he's a very lackluster option. He has the kit of a dive character that really wants to... he was a dive character that had a frontline and had a pretty hard issue as it was killing squishies. Now he's a harder issue killing squishies with more HP, which is definitely nice, but it's just not enough. Something else has got to be done for my man, because I actually really like Iron Fist. Iron Man. So he actually was buffed solo, but they nerfed the Gamma buff so quite a bit. The Gamma buff charge from the Hulk Iron Man does not feel nearly as prep. It's like 50% as good. It's still pretty solid. It's pretty decent still. He does really, really good damage. But now he does actually more solo damage. And on his own, he's definitely a better character. But the issue that Iron Man struggles from is that Hela and Hawkeye are stronger this patch than they were last patch, which was the big issue with Iron Man in the first patch, like in the first season of the game. And because of that, you know, I have to place him rather low again. Like, I feel like he's still pretty okay. You know, B tier is nothing to, you know, be like, oh my god, they're so bad. But the simple fact of the matter is, like, nobody's playing him, and if somebody does play him, somebody swaps to Hela, and this character dies. You know, they just get shot out of the sky. The problem with a lot of the flyers in the game right now is that they're kind of stubby. And they're very, very, you know, Iron Man's big ult has a big animation. And it's very, very obvious. You know, it's really easy to deal with without a combo. The damage that he does without with Gamma is just not as potent anymore. And even if, like, with the Gamma buff, I would still only put him up here at, like, the top of B, maybe. So, I think that he's a fine character, but I don't think he's anything to write home about. Jeffrey the Land Shark. This character is interesting. He's really hard for me to rate. On a team with 2 supports, Jeff actually looks pretty solid. You know, he could be up here. I think that he could be you know, within these, like, this little center area. I think he's definitely worse than Iron Man. But he's actually a pretty solid dive. He's a very decent, okay character to, like, sit in the back line of the enemy team and just do constant damage. You know, the issue, though, is that triple support got nerfed. And because triple support got nerfed, Jeff feels a little bit less capable because characters just get their ults slower. And you kind of don't really want to run triple support that often anymore, especially on attack side. And because of that, Jeff feels fine, but he's suffering. Like, his win rate, I believe, last time I checked was like a week ago, and it was still really low. My boy needs some help, for sure. His healing is okay. The larger issue is, like, for every, you know, 5 ults that you do, you might get one with more than 2 people inside of it, right? And, well, 2 people is not that bad, but there's a lot of the cast that you kind of just have to jump off the map as Jeff, other than, like, certain areas, right? Jeff is not a throw pick, necessarily, but he's just one of those characters that you don't really get a lot of value compared to other characters you could be playing. Why not just play and dive DPS if you're going to be, you know, running Jeff? He's definitely okay. That's as best I can give him. Loki, in my opinion, this character shot up quite a bit on my tier list. I've been playing Loki, actually. This is my most played support of the season. I think this character's phenomenal. I think he's really fun. I think he's a lot of skill expression. I think that there's a high value and a high skill ceiling for a character like Loki. I think that you can really hard carry a game as this character. You have a lot of options. You know, taking a support ult is, like a defensive ult, is insanity. It's so good. He gets his ult so fast. The well is so good. This character just does everything. He does everything. He does decent damage if you're playing with the clones correctly. He can never die if you're playing correctly. He's the best support pick into dive by far. It's not even close. And, you know, he's just all around really, really good. This character is disgusting. If you're running him on with 2 other supports, you can actually sub his support ult out to take something like a Star-Lord ult or a Storm ult to force the other team to use their resources. If they're running 2 support and you're running a Loki, they just have to burn something, because you can actually just take a damage ult and be like, hey, look at me now. If you don't pop a support ult here, you're gonna die because my friend over there is also gonna run a support ult or a damage ult. And then you have 2, you know, he's just constantly doing something and providing so much value. This character is absolutely gross. He's so good, and he's a top support in the game, maybe even best in the game, if not for who's coming up next, Luna Snow. This character's ult, this character's kit, is just still really good. She can just pop it at will. She's not dependent on having another character. That's my biggest issue with, like, Loki. With Luna Snow on the team, Loki is probably above her. But the problem is, like, you're not always seeing a Loki on your team. And if Luna is banned, you know, obviously you can't take the Luna ult, but Luna doesn't rely on other characters to be good. She is just what she is what you know, what you see is what you get. This character is just strong. She has really good damage. The clap actually makes her pretty much DPS. She can do so much damage, apply so much pressure. Her healing is insane, obviously. She has a monstrous ult of 12 seconds, which is diabolically gross. Has a damage boost, can combo really well with things like the more to one-shot team comps. She's just really, really good. I think this champ is super duper peak. I think that she's a picker ban. I think that she deserves the hype. This character is absolutely insane. Magic, in my opinion, the most consistent of the melee DPSs. A lot of people were fear-mongering and saying that this character was going to be unplayable, and fear not. The nerf came, and this character still has an incredibly high win rate with an even higher pick rate than she did last season. Magic is disgusting. We need to stop coping for this character as if she is fragile and made of glass. Magic is really strong. By herself, you know, right now, she is a character that is a feast or famine pick, that whenever your team is winning, she will unironically look like the most unstoppable wrecking ball that you've ever seen. She does so much. Her ultimate does so much damage if you're using it properly. She just gets a lot of value out of team play. The biggest problem with Magic is that if you're not running with tanks that know what they're doing, she can struggle a bit, and whenever she's behind, this character can look kind of gross, in terms of, like, looking kind of bad. But in my opinion, she's, like, by far and away the most consistent dive character in the game, with the only other contender being, like, Wolverine. So and Psylocke, obviously, but she's incredibly good. This character is incredibly solid. I don't know. We need to stop coping for this character. This character's gross. She's really, really good. Magneto, super high value even now. This character, in my opinion, is still, you know, tied with Strange. I think that he and Strange share the same. I think that in terms of, like, needing to kill a support ult, he doesn't necessarily have to as much, but the big thing now is when people are running 2 support ults, you know, now you can just immediately take it. You can shut down one of the support ults, rendering that push entirely useless. He's really good into Punisher. He can shut down other DPS ults like Star-Lord really, really easily. He's very, very decent at shutting down characters like Bucky. You know, he just does a lot. This character's still really, really, really good. I think he's quite good, and definitely deserves all the hype he gets. Mantis, I think that Mantis is quite good. I think that she is really, really, really good, actually. After the triple support nerfs came in, and some characters like Cloak and Dagger got the bit of the hammer, Mantis feels super good to play. Still really, really good DPS. One of those characters that you don't necessarily see all of the value that she brings at face value. You know, she does a lot well. Damage is good. The sleep is good. The damage boost is monstrous, especially on poke characters. She can put it on a Black Panther and watch the team explode. She's just all around a super solid pick. You cannot go wrong by playing her. The only issue that she sometimes runs into is if you're running other healers that don't necessarily do a whole lot of healing in quick intervals, then she can really run into some trouble there because she's not a burst healer, right? But the ult is still really good. Moon Knight has fallen quite a bit for me. This character is still quite decent. I think that he's fine. Still struggles really bad into dive, and dive feels a lot better to play this season compared to last season for sure. So I definitely don't really love him. I'm not married to him as much. The ult nerf feels really bad. Well, his ult is really good, but it feels bad compared to what it was last season. Because last season it was grody. It was so good. I think that he is a fine character. I think that he's definitely decent, but in the same way, you know, he hurt himself quite a bit with the nerf. So I definitely feel like putting him here is fine. Still really, really fast ult charge though. Namor is so good. This character is diabolically strong, obviously. You know, the whale is crazy. He has really good pressure with the squids. His base damage from his primary is really, really good still. The bubble is really good. He has super good team-ups with Luna. This character is really strong, and I think that he deserves a spot up here as one of the 3 S-tier DPS for me in the game right now, and we'll go ahead and pull up the third, actually. The single best DPS in the game right now, in my opinion, is still Storm. I think this character's ult is really good. Her value is so good. She can still pop ultimate every fight. Feels like sometimes she can get it twice a fight, depending on how long it's going and how many support ults are popped. She baits out utilities like no other. She provides utility like no other. The damage boost is crazy. She can pair really well with characters like Widow, Hawkeye, Hela. She's just a really good pick. She can also pair well with Namor. She's just overall good. And for the DPS category, that actually rounds out my list up here. I think that she is really, really solid. You know, altogether, she's just a really, really, really good pick. Penny. Gosh, I'm gonna get crucified. I think this character's fine on some maps, but I think on other maps, she's just, like, not good, ever. There are some maps where if you get to point fast, she actually feels pretty good. She's okay on the Spider Islands maps. She feels okay on the, one Asgardian map, the, Capture the Point map. She feels okay on the outside one and the one with the big pillar. She can look kind of good there, but she's very specialized, and good Penny players will obviously make her work. I don't think that she's like the worst thing to run in the game or anything like that, but she's just not providing enough to the team to really warrant her being there. I don't think that the nest is that good. I think that she is kind of carried by her CC ability, and I think her ultimate is still quite bad. So I think that right now she might need some help for sure, because I don't think that she's, you know, I don't think her value is worth it right now, in my opinion. Very unfortunate, because I actually quite like playing this character. Psylocke. This character is really strong. This character is still super duper good. I had her up here on the S tier, but again, I think that these characters are kind of a cut above. I think Psylocke is rather fantastic. She does so much for the team. She can really, really mess people up. Really high skill expression on the character. The stealth is really good. 2 dashes are really good. The ultimate can be used to bait out support ults and just straight up kill supports. You know, her damage is ludicrous. She can still one burst squishies. This character is diabolically good. Really, really solid pick. Mr. Rocket. So Rocket's hard for me because I don't like rating this character without context to his team ups, right? Because with his team ups, I actually think that he's here at the top of B tier. I think he's really good. I think that providing the amount of potential that he does to characters like Punisher and Bucky is fantastic. I feel like he does quite a bit for them. But my larger problem with Rocket is that the ultimate is still okay. It's just like, all right. You know, it doesn't do enough, and it's very short, and it's very easy to kill. Um, in some situations, you know, depending on the team comp, you just can't run him. He's not that great into dive because, you know, the amplifier is not going to provide that much to them. The res is not going to provide that much to them. But he's a decent utility pick. He's definitely not, unfathomably great, but he's very good for heal botting. He's very like low entry level character, so anybody can play him, which is great. He's all right. He's a very decent pick, for sure. I think him and Adam Warlock really, stand together. I think I like Adam Warlock's soul bond a little bit better in the healing because I think that him against dive is very, very big. So I think that he's fine. Wanda. All right, I'm not gonna rage bait like I did last time. Last time I had her in her own tier. I think that Wanda is okay. I think that she, unironically, is just fine. I think I like her a little more than Jeff, for sure. Well, actually, I like Black Widow more than Wanda, personally. I think I have Black Widow here at the center of B. The next character on the list is going to be Spider-Man, and I'm just gonna... All right, listen, I'm gonna be entirely transparent. I think that Spider and Venom have to be kind of ranked together. By Spider-Man's self, I think that he is more in line here. Whenever I don't see a Venom on the other team, this character kind of just dies, even without Namor being picked in the game. He just doesn't do enough damage without the Venom team up. His ultimate still, obviously, it's pretty good. And some really, really good Spider-Mans will make him work and look pretty solid. But I don't think he's anything to go nuts over without the Venom pick. However, when Venom is on the team, I actually think that Spider-Man cranks it up to 11. I think this character actually becomes really, really solid. And I think that he ends up doing a lot more whenever he is on the team. But I do think that he and Venom are super duper codependent, so I'm gonna actually place them together, fairly close. Now, Venom is quite solid, in and of himself. He does pretty okay damage. His ultimate's still really, really good for surviving. He has incredible movement. He's got a pretty nasty team up with Penny and Spider-Man, obviously. So he definitely has a lot going for him. High HP. He does really, really decent damage with his primary fire. Very, very good tank. Especially as an off tank, if he's playing well. Venom one tricks will make him look astounding. If he's duoed with a Spider-Man player, he will look like one of the most crazy picks in the game, especially if they're a good player and they're not just picking it because of Spider-Man. Overall, I think he's a fantastic option. I think Spider-Man is definitely in a much better place, especially after the buffs that he received at the end of the season, because he feels a lot faster too, I've noticed as well, playing him on my own. Squirrel Girl. Originally, I thought this character was a lot more sleeper, and I do think that she is still quite good. I think that Squirrel Girl is quite solid, but I think that she's much more of a situational pick. I think on certain maps, this character is very, very good. Clintar comes to mind whenever I talk about that. A lot of the push the cart maps in general, Squirrel Girl just feels incredibly good. If all of the maps in the game were set up in the same ways like Clintar and, the convoy map on the Asgardian area, then I would probably have her closer to above, like, Moon Knight the Spider-Man area, because I do think she's quite solid. The double root is definitely very, very good, but I think that I kind of overestimated the buff that she ended up getting on her ult, because in areas that have open thresholds where you can kind of just lay into it without having to aim at all, it's very lackluster still. The ult dies quite quick. She does do really, really good damage. Very good into things like Groot. Very good into both shield tanks because she can kind of dumpster damage just over and over and over again. Which is great. Definitely a solid pick, for sure. I quite like her. She's definitely kind of on the higher part of B tier, in my opinion. She's definitely a very good sleeper pick, and players that are really, really good at this character are going to make her look phenomenal, which is always a great thing. It's always very, very awesome. Star-Lord. This character, after the buff to his jet fuel, feels really good. This character's super good, actually. Top tier, even. I think I like him quite a bit. I like him better than Psylocke right now. I think that he has an incredible ult. It's pretty much a use utility or die, button, which is always fantastic, of course. He's got incredible mobility. He has super duper good safety, He can reload his guns. He's got constant sustained DPS. He gets his ult crit really, really quick if you're landing your shots. Very high skill expression, very high skill floor. You know, the only counters to him are incredibly hard poke or things like Namor. And even then, he plays pretty decent into Namor because he can shoot the squids fairly easily because he dumpsters damage on them so quick. He's an okay option at shooting the walls for Groot. You know, he's just a really, really good pick. Star-Lord in general feels incredible this season. Very, very fun. And the Punisher, I think that he is quite solid. I think also, like, this character, I definitely like him more. Again, this is one of those characters that he feels better whenever you have characters like Rocket there as well. On his own, I actually think that he's more of a top of B tier pick. And I think he's quite good, and he's really good into flyers right now, especially, well, mostly because, like, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. I think he's really, really solid. Do I want to put him in A? I don't really... I'm not quite sure. I quite like him in B tier as, like, kind of the top spot as, like, the entry level. I think he's really, really solid, and I think you can play him in a lot of situations. But I think that when he gets countered, he feels really bad to play into. I think hard poke definitely makes him feel really, really, you know, hurt. And if you don't have a rocket, he feels, like, way worse to play as. His turret is still decent. His ultimate is pretty good, although a lot of people are being able to shut it down now with characters like Magneto, things like Namor ult, you know, just able to just, like, quickly get rid of it and do a lot of damage to it. So I think he's definitely solid, though, and I think he's, you know, the case could be made for him to be an A tier for sure. Thor. This is one of those picks that I just don't see that much, and it's kind of hard for me to rate. My heart tells me that he's also high B currently. I think that he's really, really good. The biggest issue is that he cannot be run solo. Solo tank Thor feels really bad. He does give a lot of potential to characters like Storm as well as Captain America. And I think that he himself is a great option, especially if you're running like a dive comp. You know, he can look really, really good. He has really good damage, pretty decent sustain. After the adjustment to his Thor force at the end of the cooldown where he's able to use his other stuff, he definitely feels better. I think I had him a bit higher, but I think that after playing the game a lot more, I'm trying to get a little bit more of an more even spread, and I just think that, you know, the distance between him... Well, actually, I don't know. Do I like him more than Venom? I'll put him under Venom, actually, because I don't necessarily like Venom more than Thor. So I'll put him here at the top of A, for sure, because I want to keep it in relation to the other tanks. But I think he's definitely a good option. I think that he does really, really good work whenever you want to, you know, run with a dive comp, which is always a good thing. I think that the team up that he has with Captain America is quite solid, very, very good. He does really, really good damage as well, obviously. You know, just an overall good pick. The worst part about him is his ultimate. That thing is still pretty cheeks. Bucky. Man, oh man. It's hard for me not to put this character in S tier, but poke is just, it feels really, really bad to play into as this character. Bucky is close. He's like really, really, really close to S tier in my opinion, but I can't get him there until we get kind of an option, like an answer for things like Hela, Hawkeye, Storm, and even in some cases Namor. He can just feel really... He's not, like, bad to play into it, but into good Hela and Hawkeye players, you're just never really contesting them, right? It's just really, really, really hard for you to do so, which is kind of a tough scene. But the magic main in me wants to put this character in S, but, you know, in my heart of hearts, the S tier is the upper rung. That is, like, a step above the rest of the cast, so... Okay, and Wolverine. So, after playing a lot more, you know, I've actually opted to just not ban Wolverine nearly as much anymore, and maybe that's also just because I'm not a tank player, but I do think this character is incredibly good. I do. Obviously, I think that he's great, and you can definitely make an argument with me to put him in S. I think that he's, like, the entry barrier. He's either the bottom of S, you know, in terms of all the damage characters, or he's the very top of A. Because I do think that there are options, and I think that now that the game is a little bit more solved and people are figuring it out a little bit more, he's not nearly as hard to play around, assuming you have comms. If your team is not talking, Wolverine actually is just up here in S. But, you know, in high elo, at least in my experience in the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot more comms. I've been, you know, people have been a lot more active in talking about, like, where people are and positioning. If you can catch Wolverine before he's there, he definitely doesn't feel bad, especially now that we have characters that have options like Magneto, Loki. Namor is still pretty solid into him. And Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, is really, really good into Wolverine because she can actually stop him from doing the grab. So overall, I don't think that he's just like an optionless, brain dead. Like, he goes in, he gets a tank, and then that character's dead. There are characters like Magneto and Sue and Loki, as we said, that and Namor that just, make it a little bit harder. Characters that have poke are also pretty okay into Wolverine as well because they can get him before he ends up going, just like all the other dive characters. So I definitely do think that he's really, really good, of course. Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, no. So I was one of the people that said that I really, really enjoyed this character. And I don't think that he's bad necessarily. Keep in mind, it's just that I feel like what he's doing is just quite lackluster, and that anything that he can do, someone else can do a little bit better. He still struggles from things like his ultimate just not being good enough. It's not fast enough. The damage is just not great. Because now the ending part of the ult got nerfed. His transformation into big form still has a little bit of a gap, so you can actually be punished and killed before it. Obviously the damage resistance form that he has is still really good, so he's got that going for him. His survivability is pretty good, especially when he goes into fat form. He can look really, really solid. But the biggest issue is just like his damage is not good enough for what he's doing, and if you put another damage in his spot, they'll probably be able to do what he does fine. The survivability that he gives to allies is definitely not horrible. It's very nice that he can give bonus HP to other people as well as himself. But again, like at the end of the day, I believe that the cooldown actually got longer as a product of it. I just think that he's like an okay, like the definition of mediocre, and he's not really doing enough special. People can make him look really good, and they can definitely make him work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the character's kit is in line with the rest of the game, Invisible Woman, I think that she is the final support character on my roster that I actually have up in the S tier. I think that she has an incredible ult. I feel like her push and her pull is incredibly good as well. She has really solid damage numbers. Her healing is obviously really, really good. I think that in terms of like how strong a support is, she is not nearly as grossly toxic and upfront about like how strong she is compared to Loki and Luna. As we said before, she can counter things like Wolverine to an extent, which is very, very solid. The character has incredible just knowledge check abilities. Like if somebody overextends for half a second, they don't have any way of protecting themselves, she can actually just pull them in and single them out and immediately win you an engagement because you get a free kill early. This character charges ultimate at the speed of sound. She's just a really, really good character overall. And I think that she definitely deserves a spot at the table because she is really good. She will eat your food if you're caught lacking on the front line. So it's a very, very good character. Okay. Dude, this is like the actual hardest character to rate on this list. When playing with Storm, Human Torch looks really decent. He's like A, right? When not playing with Storm, this character just does not feel good. Good players can play Human Torch and make him look fine. The issue is that he gives ult charge to supports super easily because he's just doing constant damage without really any kill pressure. His primary fire from where you're like kind of sitting is a lot of the time can have a lot of issues and not do a lot of damage. This character struggles with finishing targets unless he uses his only entry ability that, renders him pretty much dead on the spot if somebody is not there to back him up. He can have good showings, and again, with the Storm team up, the ultimate team up, it is insane. It's so strong. But I'm not sure. This character came out and he just feels really underwhelming a lot of the time. Every time I've not played with a single Human Torch player that has not kind of just done like mid. Even like whenever if like they get something done, it doesn't feel like they're doing anything remarkable. I don't think that he's a throw pick per se, but I definitely don't think that he's that strong. I'm going to rate him in assumption that you have Storm because I don't think picking him without Storm is good. So I'm going to put him in the B tier, but just to clarify, if Storm is not on the team, I actually think that he is below Mr. Fantastic. I don't think that he does enough for the team. And I think that he is far and away the worst flyer of the the 3, 4 if you include Star-Lord. Okay? But for now, I'm going to put him in kind of the B area, just in the dead center. Thing. This character actually feels really good. I actually like him quite a bit. I think that he's definitely A. I actually like him better than Venom and Thor. When you have another tank on your team, that is like a shield tank, Thing will feel impressive. He'll look really, really good. He does really solid damage. His haymakers do work. You know, he's straight hands. His ultimate obviously is incredibly good. It's a super big punish. It's a very big catch for people overextending. His get in and get out if you're playing around teammates that are actually calming is really, really good. In chokes, this character will shut down dive really hard. You can put him on the backline of your team to peel, and he'll just put down the tremor on the ground. And I've seen people just like completely get rid of a Black Panther and they have to swap. He's just overall a really solid option. He does get punished kind of hard by characters like Groot, because, you know, he just gets walled off. And I've actually seen Thing players get messed up a little bit by characters like Hulk, who can just jump in and jump out. And Thor's obviously a stat stick. But I do think that he's quite good. I think that I'm very impressed, actually. He's probably, of the Fantastic Four members, my most fun to play. He's felt super duper great. Looking back at this list, is there anything I would change? I don't think that necessarily the gap between Jeff, Wanda, is like so large that they should be all down, like he should be by himself. I would actually probably arrange this more in line with this, maybe. I think I like this quite a bit more. So who could you make a case for to like move up or down the scale? I like S tier. I think all of these characters are incredibly good. I think even the worst of the batch, who in my opinion would probably be somebody like Invisible Woman, just the gap between her and then Cloak and Dagger is just so far, in my opinion, that she's just so good. I think this tier is relatively fine. In addition, who could you add here? Maybe Wolverine and Bucky come to mind. And after that, Hulk, maybe you could make a really good argument for him, but I just think compared to what Strange and Magneto are doing, he's just not, he doesn't have the firepower. I think he's really good, obviously. Star-Lord, maybe, I'm not too sold on that. And then after Psylocke, I think that the rest of this list is just kind of fine to not go into S. Punisher, you could probably make a really good case for A. And Rocket and Atom, maybe, you know, interchangeably, you could probably, you know, get me there. Spider-Man, again, with the Venom team up, without it, I think he's a lot worse. And I don't really think that the gap, I think that these characters in B tier are relatively okay. Let me know your thoughts. Of course, this is my opinionated lineup from playing like, you know, 150 hours over the course of like, you know, 2 weeks or something on 2 accounts. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure that you like and subscribe and do whatever you want to do. I love you, mean it, and I'll see you guys next time. Later. Bye. Love you. See ya.